we have a few people in the room, and so we'll just start going through tonight's stuff is the general bylaw. And we are recording the meeting, so just in case you need to know that for security purposes, you are being recorded. So we will start with the articles that are the general bylaw articles. Scott Martin, who is the chairman of the General Bylaw Review Committee, will start going through the articles. I've just been informed of one other article that I didn't see was not theirs. It's not theirs, but they did take a vote on it. So if you want to go ahead and start, you're very welcome to start.
Thank you very much, Amy.
If you're talking to the mics, I think they're on.
Thank you very much, Amy. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Martin. I'm in Precinct 7. I'm the current chair of the General Bylaw Review Committee, and I have a couple of members online with us, joining us on WebEx. So first article in the warrant that is general bylaw is Article 9, and Article 9 and 10 are basically to do the same thing. One is the home rule petition, petitioning the state to authorize us under 686, and Article 9 is the bylaw that would go into our general bylaws. This is an updated version, if you will, of the town meeting articles that we submitted back in September of 2023 that would allow for the annual town meetings to be remotely accessed. And during that town meeting in September, the articles were turned down, and primarily because we had included in it the elimination of the in-person quorum requirement, and that the audio-video quality of the electronic communication platform was very poor. And so we've made some adjustments and some minor tweaks to the article. So the in-person quorum requirement is no longer there. We would still have to have the 64 members of town meeting members to be in the auditorium to count as the quorum. However, there could be up to 42 members viewing the town meeting and participating with it in the town meeting on an electronic communications, remotely accessing it. I'm assuming the only one that might have a question would be Sally or one of the folks that are here if they have a question.
In 1.2.1, the fourth or fifth line from the bottom, the word session, is each separate meeting a session, or are you talking the 2 business days prior to the first meeting, or 2 business days prior to any individual evening?
The session could be multiple nights. So we adjourn that session.
Okay, so a session refers to each night.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that gives the opportunity to the town meeting member to miss one, but be at the next one.
And how did we come about to say that the limit shall be 1/3? Arbitrary, okay.
We needed to make sure that we have the 64
Or,
quorum in the House. And by making 42, that leaves us with 84 that could be in the House if everybody was there.
Scott,
Yes.
could you address the red line through the town clerks so everyone understands why it's that way in the
Okay.
article?
So in the warrant, in 1.2.2 is that's the paragraph that Phyllis is referring to. When we originally submitted the articles, we did not have that red-lined statement in there. And town council asked the question, should there be some wording in there to address how the number 42 gets reached or decided upon? And we responded initially that this was first come, first serve. And Amy reminded us that she does not currently, the town clerk's office does not currently have the authority to make the determination.
it's basically the clerk can't determine who can attend and who cannot attend a meeting.
Right.
Period.
Yep.
I don't
So-
think the state would ever even pass that.
So
We're powerful, but they don't let us have that.
we'd love you to determine. So basically, we took it out. Amy actually is taking it out for us. And it will be when again, it's first come, first serve. Emails are time-stamped when they're received by the town, in the town clerk's office. And the first 42, if we ever get that many, will be the ones that a link will be sent to. Other than that, they will not be sent a link.
Is there a way for the public to join?
They can watch it on cable TV,
Or stream?
ECAT,
Or stream?
or
But they can't participate, so they
they
can't.
can't participate, so if the public wants to participate, they have to be in the room, and they have to notify the town moderator that they want to speak, and after all town meeting members have spoken and asked questions, the moderator would know that somebody from the public wants to speak and would recognize them.
These days, we should have better access for the general public, but this is all we got for now.
Yeah, well, that's not part of this article.
Right.
What was that, Sally?
I just said that's not part of this article.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Baby steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm missing the wording that says first come, first served. What paragraph is that in?
It's sort of in between the lines.
Okay, that's
There's no
fine.
legal way to say that.
Right, and I understand. Fine,
So, in legalese, that would make this.
That's fine.
Do it.
And he's talking about it being a red line. It's in your copy.
It's just a straight line.
Strike through.
Yeah.
Strike through.
So the
And it
town
looks like there's no 1.2.2 because it is struck through.
That's
Yeah.
just indicating that it is changed. That paragraph is changed.
So 1.2.2 does exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, the strike through
Yeah.
there is
Strike
not
makes it look
truly
like
a
it.
strike through. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's just to identify something that had gotten struck through by legal.
Question.
Yes.
So as I understood it, we had federal ADA requirement to allow people to teleconference in if they had some
Yes.
disability or health issue. How do we, are they in excess of the 1/3, or do
No.
they get to the head of the line among the 1/3?
That's the first come, first served, but they better ask.
Well, you want me to, don't you want me to jump in here?
Yeah, please, Dave. Yeah,
Okay.
the
Hey,
process-
I'm one person who's done ADA.
Yeah.
The ADA is sort of its own thing. It sort of supersedes all this. Anybody who has a, justifiable disability and requires accommodations has to be allowed in here. It doesn't matter if all 42 are filled up or not. So the ADA is it's sort of independent of this.
Okay, so, and we need a 2/3 majority, or a 2/3 quorum,
No, we
Oh.
need
Need
a
a
simple majority.
simple majority
Majority.
quorum. So the 1/3 undershoots that, so we're probably,
We're-
the one thing I was worried about is not knowing whether you have a quorum in a given night, or just greatly increasing the odds of missing quorum.
That's why we sign in that. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, Sally had her hand raised, but I think she's taking it down. Sally? She may have had to step out or something.
She's not on mute anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh, there she is. Oh, we're not hearing you, Sally.
We can't hear you.
You want to put it in the chat?
Was there a vote on this?
We voted 5-0-0. Sally's typing.
Yeah.
We think we've addressed all the issues that town meeting had back in September of last year.
Well, there was one, some people raised, they wanted to be able to talk to people face to face prior to the vote, and that's the view of some people, a vocal view.
We need to have this capability, and if that's why they're coming to town meeting, is to talk to people face to face, probably should be talking long before the town
They
meeting.
should be coming to this meeting.
They should be coming to the meeting anyway.
Did you compare, I have a friend in Lexington who's a town meeting member, and I don't think she ever goes in person.
Right, they haven't since before COVID.
So they can go 100% online?
It's been a long time since we looked at their regs, and I don't remember what they were.
Yeah, I can't remember, and my contact over there is,
Her reason for not going is she's taking care of her husband who's
yeah,
incapacitated, so, she
Right.
can't leave him alone.
yeah.
She's perfectly physically capable of going, but I think she has a legitimate reason not for going. But I don't know, I get the impression that a lot of people who are perfectly healthy choose to do it from home.
They probably do. I'm
And
not
my only
sure.
concern is documents. It's hard for
Well,
us to see documents when we're at home.
yeah. And that's one of the reasons that we also had the electronic provision of the warrant. You could get it electronically, so that then you could bring it up and blow it up as big as you wanted to online in front of you, kind of a thing.
Yeah. You got to sit there with two laptops or something.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. So Sally, did you type in?
Yeah,
your-
she said she has no questions.
Oh,
or
okay,
comments.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, So that's 9.
9 and 10, basically. 10 is just the, getting the, and somewhere along the line, we need to investigate whether we can do that, that combined. I don't know how to, but anyway. So 11.
10 is just asking the state for permission to change up
Yeah, changes.
finding documents.
Our acts of 1970 that said we want to have a,
So that should just be a pro forma type thing.
yeah.
Well, and actually what has to happen is the legislature has to pass it first before the Attorney General will approve it. Like, I'm still waiting for the one from September of last year, for the legislature to pass the, having to do the town meeting caucusing to fill a position before town meeting. I'm still waiting for the legislature to pass that.
Really?
Yeah, I just reached out again to Kenning about it. It has passed the House, but it has not passed the Senate yet. We can only ask them.
Right. Does Cindy know that? It hasn't,
Well, I would say Cindy knows it because I sent it to her and I keep requesting it of them.
don't send it to Cindy, send it to her aide.
Well, I sent it to the email that is the
Yeah.
chief of staff.
Ah,
She's
good.
the one who looks at it
Okay.
and moves stuff through, so.
She doesn't respond to me either.
What? Oh, okay. Well, you know, they're busy too, I mean.
Maybe we've all got the wrong email address for her.
Yeah.
Next time, never mind.
Yeah. So, no, I'm just saying, that's the procedure.
Yeah.
So, once this, you know, once this gets through the legislature, then, I mean, I send them to both the AG and the legislature at the same time. And then I usually get something back from the AG that says, as soon as you hear from the legislature, let us know, so. That's the procedure.
So moving on to
11.
11. This is a recall, a new section of the Article 1, which would allow for a recall petition for any position that is in town that is an elected position. It's not aimed at anybody in particular at this point. Think of it as more of, we're anticipating the possibility, and more of the towns in the state have implemented this type of bylaw within their general bylaws. And so it's more of a safety net. We've tried to provide a lot of more information in the backup, and I hope everybody has a chance to read it. And we actually are going to amend this. There was a couple of minor little things that we wanted to take out, just to clarify a few things. We muddied the water, and basically what this does is says, hey, look, if an elected official does actions that are ethically violations or ethical misconduct, or is criminal activities, or fails to fulfill the duties of that position, a mismanagement of resources of the committee that they are on, or broken promises, and this one is a little bit more general. The thinking, this was, if an elected official campaigns on a specific promise or platform and then fails to follow through, then somebody could question them. And if they weren't satisfied with the reasoning, for instance, more information was provided and gotten for a particular thing that's being looked at.
And I do have your amendments. Michelle sent me the red line
Okay.
for the amendments. So what's
Okay.
in red here, which what it will show on town meeting night are the things that are going to be part of the amendment.
Is that sent out, the amendments?
I did
Yeah.
not send it out to you, no.
We'll have it and make the amendment on the floor. You'll see it.
They came in after the
Yeah.
warrant was published. So what he's talking about is mainly these, at the end of 9.1.21D, there's a new line. Actually, no, the line
The
was
line
struck.
disappeared.
So that line, if an elected official consistently ignores or dismisses the concerns and needs of their constituents, so that line has been struck out of the, or will be struck, as an amendment, will be struck. And then the next one, 9.1.2.1E, that one was partially struck, and then the last line, they may face a recall movement from their constituents.
I had vague my note next to 9.1.21D,
Yeah,
and then I had a question on 1E. A person may make all the promises in the world, but they don't have the authority by themselves as a part of the legislature you can't hold them responsible if they've made an effort to do what they promised, but are held back.
It would have to be pretty blatant.
Have to be.
Pretty blatant. I promise you that your taxes will be zero, and we'll make it just like New Hampshire or something, and you get elected because of that, and then you just can't.
We don't know what's in the mind of the people, why they elected.
That's correct.
So it's,
I read that and I thought that at the time you try to fill out the petition, if there's enough, sort of a lack of substance to the lack of adequate signatures on the petition would wash out that kind of vagueness about
Yeah.
not following through.
you'd hope, except the person going around getting the signatures may tell a different story. Yeah, it's hard to control. Yeah, I just look at it and say, how do we prevent abuse of it, that's all.
Well, we have tried to put in some safeguards.
Yeah. Did any of the other communities end up modifying theirs because there was an attempt to abuse it?
All we have access to is what they currently have.
Apparently, okay.
And Michelle Hooton is the committee member that did a lot of the research and digging. And this is very similar to most everybody else's, and taking out the stuff that is specific to that particular town. Most of the other towns that have this right now are open town meetings. But there are several that are representative town meetings like we have, so we tried to make it as accommodating, and
The
it will-
date here in the backup indicates the date of the event or the date that the law was adopted.
Mhm.
The date at which somebody tried to recall or the date that the law was adopted. So it says Hopkinton 2024, East Hampton 2023. Does that mean the bylaw was adopted then, or does that mean that was when a recall effort was made?
That was when the recall effort was made.
Okay.
And as far as we knew, I remember Michelle saying that there had been no comebacks at this article in the towns that we looked at.
There been no what, Phyllis?
No, there was no controversy, there was no complaint, there was no change it type deal.
Okay, thank you. In 9.1.2.1A, it says unethical behavior while in office. Does that mean that the behavior has to be related to the office? Or they can do some unethical behavior that's got nothing to do with the office they occupy?
You'd have to look up Mass General Law 268A, and that defines what ethical violation.
I know what unethical behavior is, but does it have to be related to the position they hold as opposed to, you know,
I can't remember.
they abuse
I
their...
read it 268
They went fishing
a long time
without their
ago.
fishing license, you know, in Wyoming. You know, is that going to cause them to be an unethical behavior?
Phyllis or Dave, do you remember?
I always thought it had to do with their position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can rob a bank, but they can't
Can't,
do
but
something.
that falls under the criminal activity.
Yeah,
Oh,
criminal is, yeah, criminal is pretty clear. I just don't
But
know
they
whether
can knock an old lady
that
down
calls
the
for
street, and
clarification.
that
Right.
doesn't count.
yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered, does that call for clarification? You know, different people can interpret it differently and then file for somebody's recall when it didn't, when their ethical violation had nothing to do with their office. And-
That's why we referenced the Mass General Law, and I'm pretty sure that it
Well,
does.
have to go
Yeah.
read that.
Have any of these towns ever used it?
Yes,
Yeah.
and in the backup, Bill,
Well,
there's lots.
they haven't, it hasn't, it usually, you set the requirements are high enough that it can't be used willy-nilly. And in most of the instances that I am aware of, a lot of times they don't,
You know,
there has been one recall that I know of, but basically, it fails a lot of times to get all of the requirements, like they don't get enough signatures.
Never
they
makes
don't
it to the
get
ball.
Time frame,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
There are 2 successful recalls in the backup.
Two in the backup,
Yeah,
and there were
one in
3 on.
Shirley I knew about.
All right.
So had this been in place in Arlington, they could have done that for the clerk's position, for failure to perform all the duties.
Yeah. And like I know Reading has it, and they also have a representative town meeting. So it's been started several times against town meeting members, but never
Right.
gotten to the point where they got enough signatures, or they didn't do it in time.
The town meeting members started it, or it was done against the town?
Against town meeting members.
Or for failure to attend, or?
Failure to attend, they didn't like the way they voted, that kind of stuff.
Oh, you mean the citizens against the whole town meeting?
No, about certain individuals or certain, there was one instance that I think was in regards to kind of the perception of they didn't want something in their neighborhood. And so another neighborhood said, well, we're going to vote you guys out because you allowed this to happen in our neighborhood. So it's those kinds of things. But again, what happened.
Yeah, that should make it to the ballot, yeah.
In that instance, it was, again, they didn't get enough signatures, or, you know, so they started the petition process, but, and that's the significant thing with this, is you've got to make sure that you've got enough steps in there.
Is
that
there a
it's not
fee
gonna
to,
be
is there a
used
fee
for-
to do this?
What?
Is there a fee for somebody to initiate this petition?
There's no fee, but it's the time that it takes to get it done, the time in
Yeah.
the clerk's office that it takes to certify the signatures, to create, to then have a new election, and that kind of stuff.
I
The
hope you
question
don't.
on my mind then is how many signatures specifically?
Well, that's all spelled out.
That's
in there.
spelled out in section
Spelled out in the-
9.1.
Hey,
9.1.2, 1% of the registered voters of Burlington would have to, so that's 300 or so, right?
What's that currently?
There's 17,000.
17 registered voters.
17,000 registered
So
voters.
that's 170 voters. Yep.
And divide by 7 for town meeting members, I presume?
I don't know if that's spelled out, did you guys spell that out in here? Is it, it's just town-wide,
It's just townwide.
so it would have to be
So-
170.
You know, if it's a particular town meeting member, it might be the precinct that
But you don't-
initiates it, but you got to
If you
go
didn't
around
spell-
and
Yeah, if you didn't
you
spell it
can't
out,
just
it's
have
going
it.
to be that number.
Right.
All 170 can be gotten from one precinct.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't
Could.
have to be
Could,
divided,
yep.
okay.
But-
Our lowest precinct has over, it has almost 1,700 registered voters.
And this was one of the discussion points that we had. A lot of the other towns just had a specific number. And we wanted to make sure that we had a percentage. So that it needed to be something more significant than 10 people to get you on the ballot kind of thing.
I'm looking at the last paragraph in 11. Do we have the authority to do that? It says as far as appointed.
We will do.
They can still run for something. We can never stop that.
Right.
You wouldn't want to have them appointed. And we do have it would be either up to the board of select board or the town moderator, because they are the appointing bodies.
But if the moderator wanted to appoint somebody, this would say, no, he can't appoint that person?
If they are recalled and,
Do we have the authority to take somebody's authority away from them?
It's in our bylaws.
in our bylaws, will be now.
Bylaws are
And
overturned all the
legal is
time.
And legal has checked this.
The Legals check that part.
Legal has said, well, okay. That's why in any case, there's at least two lawyers, because they disagree. Is there a vote on that?
That was 500 also, I believe. Yes.
So I have the question, I think I know the answer. Actually. Is who decides whether the grounds for recall have been met?
Well,
The bylaw.
in terms of just being able to do a petition.
Well, I mean, you could collect 170 signatures, and I could probably find 170 people who strongly dislike anyone in this room.
Exactly.
And so who's to know whether the alleged violation is even logically meaningful, let
So
alone
the-
supported by facts? I don't know that there's
The
any
process,
language
the
in it.
process would be, you get certified, all of the things, the date, election date gets timed, set up, re-election date or recall
No, but he's
election.
talking even before that. So, yeah.
There is some, you get a,
I think
before
the
that,
answer is it goes to court.
well,
So
no,
you-
No.
it would go to the voters before it went to court.
I think
Of
you have
course,
to,
it'd be followed up, I mean, it would go on forever, which means that it would happen before it could be resolved by the court. So it's basically open season on any
Elected.
public official.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
You could have any beef whatsoever and you could initiate it.
Yeah. That is one of the problems with all of the recall petitions, is that if somebody wanted to fight it, they could fight it in court. And so meanwhile, the town would start the process. We would be required to do the process in the time frame that it works. And then, at some point in time, if there, after the election, if the person decided they wanted to fight it, they could take it to court.
Well, they could take it to court before,
They could take it in the process.
and have the
yes.
court put a stay on the
Yeah,
election.
you can
Yeah.
just file an injunction. I mean, obviously, if I had to file an injunction to stop a recall vote for my precinct 6 town meeting position, I would just resign and
Yes.
gleefully abdicate all positions. But, because why bother? But, you know, that's not the concern. The concern is that it takes 170.
Does the court have the right to step in and stop the?
Yes, we can stop an election.
Can someone I think I heard someone say that this brought open season on positions, and I don't understand what you mean.
Well, mine,
Meaning this is just like hunting season. There is permission to proceed with the kill. You know, if you want to remove someone from office, go ahead and do it. You just need 170 signatures. The justification for that move is never going to be particularly well defined. I think that's going to be the nexus of opposition.
but I don't think you can have another body in the middle of that process, sort of deciding on the question before you get to the voters.
Right, it'd be too
So,
cumbersome,
I mean,
and that's
right.
why I'm saying that there is no effective adjudication process. It's governed by social contract.
Right. A sufficiently motivated person can abuse the process.
Yes.
With 169 votes.
Easy to get.
I don't know how easy it is to get 169.
I mean, the 1% doesn't seem
Couple days of
completely
canvassing.
arbitrary. It sounds like a reasonable threshold. 2% might be just as good. But
So what you're saying is, despite the criteria being listed, someone can go ahead and pursue it without any of these criteria having been met.
Correct.
So the
Yeah,
criteria
it's in
is,
the eye of the beholder. I
the
mean,
criteria is simply
to make
guidance.
the argument. Yeah, it's guidance.
And when it bypasses that and gets to the voters can be motivated by saying, this petition shouldn't be before us,
right.
Exactly.
even though it gets there.
Except then it gets to be a popularity contest on that person,
Sure.
which may have nothing to do with,
Any of the criteria. Yeah.
right. Someone could have been just barely elected to a board.
So despite all your efforts, there's still a possibility of abuse.
There could be, yes. How big is it? I don't know. It seems to be not abused in a lot of the other towns.
Well, I think you've put enough in there that, somebody who's lost their temper, by 2 or 3 weeks later, when they see how much work it is, maybe they will just give up.
Yeah. And there is a 6-month waiting period, after the initial position
But
is.
some of us are more determined than others, we just might go through with it.
Okay.
We're going to hold you to
They'll go right ahead, okay.
Now we know where the trouble starts.
I think we've always,
I like drama. I'll canvass to recall whoever. Just tell me who.
You would think that during the time leading up to the vote, that there would be some interviews and some debates and things, that the person being recalled would have a chance to justify and state their case and all of this other stuff to the voters. And then the voters decide.
If the person initiating the recall or
Also
the close
be-
committee is an elected official, someone could turn around and have a recall on them for pushing a recall against the first person, and you could have a nice circular effect here.
If they ran against that person, yeah.
chaos theory is amazing stuff.
Yeah,
Could you sue someone if they started a petition
you
against
could
you?
sue anyone. Winning is another problem.
Unjustly?
So
Okay,
perhaps the best-
I have another meeting that I need to go to, so I'd like to move on if we could.
I think we've identified a couple of potential.
I want you a booster
I
t-shirt.
think I can put a bow on it by
Mine is
saying,
getting
thank
one.
you, Mr. Kelly. I think the mutually assured destruction is probably the best counter argument to what I raised.
Yeah.
Anything on number 12?
12, number 12.
12. So on 12, this is the, again, in September, we put forth an article that asked to have the town meeting members have the select board appoint a committee, an ad hoc committee, to evaluate the electronic voting system for the town. And after, how many did we have, Bill? 3 roll call votes? Anyway, several people came back to us and said, are you going to re-implement that, but take out all of the guidance that we had originally tried to put in the article in September. So this Article 12 just says, make a committee. We recommend, we need to look at it to see if it should happen. It would be maybe under $10,000 to buy the little gizmos, and so that's Article 12. It's just, do it again, let's try again. Here, we've taken out all of the problems were that we identified, what we thought would be, what the board, the General Bylaw Review Committee thought would be the expectations, the responsibilities, the timing, all of this other stuff. And we've taken all of that out. So just create the board, the committee, and let them figure out what they want to do to look at it. So that
And then they come back to town meeting and present what they believe should happen.
And if they find that, nope, we shouldn't do it, fine. If we find that, then we'll just hang it up. But it would make things a lot, I feel it would be a lot quicker to have them, they pick up their little thing, they get there and vote.
You said you could tell them where to go?
Yeah, that too.
And the vote on that?
That was 5-0-0.
Oh, okay. And now,
That does it.
13. This was actually presented by the ISAC committee. There was a vote on it, you took a vote on it, correct?
We took a vote on it and said if this is the way they want to make up their committee, let them. And we voted 5-0-0 for that also. Excuse me, it was 4-0-1 because one of our members is on the ISAC committee. And he abstained.
And the only thing that I've noticed with this, I just have some questions with the version that they submitted. They crossed out in a number of places, at least the version that was in the warrant, they crossed out select board in a number of places. There's nobody,
It's a formatting error.
okay,
Yeah, I think they had Board of Selectmen and they wanted to change that to Select Board.
okay, because I couldn't figure it out, and then the version that I had electronically is the one that you see here, and they had crossed out select board and put Board of Selectmen. So I've got to figure out what's.
But they both crossed it out and underlined it, so they're doing two things with it.
Yeah, but it left selectmen as the underlined.
Underlined portion.
And select board, selected, the select board was crossed out, so I
Oh,
don't,
dear.
I'll find that out.
As in the earlier, I think the skinny line, at least one interpretation is, it's just, there is an edit here.
Yeah, right. Well, but I went back to
I know, but
the
you have to know.
track changes
Right.
Okay.
thing and couldn't figure it out, so, but that would be something then that has to be read at town meeting to be properly presented, so.
I need to leave. I think we finished all of ours, right, Scott?
Yes, and I also have to leave. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you, everyone.
If you have think of any other questions, please let me know, email me or something.
Yep,
Thank you very much.
sounds good.
If I want to go backwards?
So then we
It was a,
have,
what was the vote on this?
are you breaking
Scott?
chairs up?
On the,
Trying.
on the
On 13, the,
ISAC thing,
oh, yeah, yes,
401.
but it really was outside your purview, you felt.
No. We
Their
voted-
general bylaw, they have.
It's general bylaws, so
Okay.
we have to review it. We reviewed it and said if this is the way they want to make up their committee, fine. That's up to you. The wording was fine, whatever, the other aspects of it was fine. But we also have a member that's on the ISAC committee that needed to abstain.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Scott.
much. Have a good night.
Yep,
Thanks.
and so then 14 and 15 were both presented by Monty Pearson, who has joined us. Do you want to talk about 14?
Yeah. I submitted this because at the last meetings of the town in May, there were several times when a handful of people wanted to have a what is it called? Oh, they wanted to have a roll call vote in a situation where it was not a close vote, but it was instead just a matter of saying that they wanted to have a record of who voted on what. And there were 4 or 5 people who wanted this, and they went and, found a couple of other people to do it. And it seemed like a very small group of people who were not doing it to clarify the voting process, but instead seemed to want to delay the group in order to satisfy some reasons that they had on their own. And I just think that given that we have a fairly large body of people, we have a lot of business to do, that we shouldn't go through the roll call vote process unless there's some serious question about the vote and how many people say yes and how many people say no, and some kind of record of that. And the idea of having a group of 4 or 5 people get together and make us go through the whole process of doing a roll call vote just struck me as being kind of a waste of time, and that it would be easier for the body if we changed the number from 7 to 12. I didn't want to make it like that you can't do that, but I wanted to do it in a way where 12 people seemed like a larger group of people who would, you couldn't just have a couple groups of a couple of friends get together and force the group to do that as a kind of way of punishing it for voting against what they wanted. So it's a very simple thing. It's just a matter of not having situations where we spend 10 or 15 minutes doing a roll call vote on something that passed 80 to 10. I don't see any point in doing that.
Electronic voting would do away with it entirely.
Yeah.
Yes, if we had electronic voting, we would do that entirely. So,
Transparency's nice.
I think we should pass this, and if we have electronic voting, then this would be obsolete.
Yeah.
I think 12 is a good number because it's 10% of the body, right?
Yes,
Roughly.
Yeah.
it's roughly 10%. So if 10% of the body wants to have a roll call, then okay, but not just a handful of people.
I mean, for reference, there was one roll call, was it in May,
Yeah.
where 3 people stood up. And then it was like, oh, well, maybe I'll stand up too. And, oh, well,
Yes.
there's still not enough, so I'm moving on with our business. And it's like, well, wait a minute, now we're up to 5. And ebbed along until there were 7, finally who
That's
said,
democracy in action.
well, all right, I guess, well. So there were like 4 people who really didn't care, but it was their friend who was asking, so they did it.
Yeah.
So
Would a
I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. I am just reporting what I observed
What you saw from your position.
from my position.
That would,
So,
that would be hard to.
Was I one of them?
Well, and the
you know, Jack, I ignore whatever you do. I pay no
Yeah,
attention.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why electronic voting system.
Well, that's why I might want to strike the word 7 and insert 1 to make it so painful that we rapidly adopt an electronic system. Obsolete.
So did the general
Sorry.
bylaw committee vote on this one?
What?
Was there a vote by the general
I
bylaw
don't
committee?
know. David, do you know what the vote was on this one? You're muted.
I believe it was unanimous, but I don't remember the actual numbers.
Yeah, probably was. I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure we voted on it because if it came to us for review, we would have voted on it.
It seems,
So it's 500?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the Rules Committee asked me to come, and they voted 3 to 4 against it.
Okay.
Uh,
And they will speak for their own reasons.
Yeah.
Sometime you-
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so on to 15. This is, we got into a situation in May where we were talking about financial issues, and the schedule of expenditures in the capital budget was referred to in a way that made it sound like it was kind of a commitment, or it was a planned thing that we ought to be following. And it seemed to me, it struck me that if it's a planned thing that we ought to be following, then each year as it's presented to town meeting, there ought to be some discussion of it. Because the capital budget, as far as I can ever remember, has never been discussed. It's always just kind of been there at the end of the budget. And there's been no explanation of it. And things get moved around and stuff, and the truth is, I have no idea who actually ends up putting it together. And I don't know, I'm not blaming anybody, but I think that if it's going to be a document that we're going to use when we're making decisions about major expenditures, that town meeting ought to have a running, have an update each year about what the capital budget has, and I specifically put in this highlighting expenditures of $1 million or more. Not that we go through every capital budget thing that's projected. That seems like, once again, a waste of time. But if you're going to put it in a building, that's a big deal what year you put that building in. And so I think that, and other things that are more than $1 million, and so we ought to have a schedule of when we're doing that, and it should be something that town meeting is at least conscious of. And my experience, and the other thing is that my experience is that if town officials are asked to come before town meeting and deliver a report on something, they spend a lot of time thinking about it and putting it together and thinking about how they want to do it and anticipating questions and things like that. And the capital budget doesn't strike me as something that's carefully thought over, and that if people had to make a report on it, that there'd be more emphasis on it. So that's another reason. That's a reason for me, I think, for doing it is, and I'm just kind of reacting to this frustrating situation where we have a police station and a grade school and a high school that are all falling apart and need capital expenditures at the same time. And somehow that shouldn't have happened.
well, it has been growing over time. A lot of people have been aware of it. So just
Right.
my 2 cents, a couple of things in the text.
Well,
I think $1 million is way too low, because we do a lot of things that cost $1 million. So the
Actually-
numbers like mine, 5 or 10 is a good threshold to raise it to the point where it needs to be reported.
okay. They're actually only a handful. I went through it. That's why I did the 1 million. I would have put it higher than that too, but there are actually only 5 or 6 $1 million and more projects
Right.
in the whole 10-year budget.
So town hall really does, I mean, to them, it really is that, the thing that they publish as part of the budget is a very important document. The finance committee of the town spends a lot of time on it. Ways and Means takes some look at it.
What is the finance committee of the town?
The treasurer,
Means.
the accountant, the town administrator, and the assistant accountant administrator.
That's the financial team.
The team, sorry.
Yes, so, yeah, finance committee and MGL is the same thing as Ways and Means.
Right, so,
The
but there's
Ways
two
and
things.
Means looks at it,
Ways and Means looks at
Capital
it.
Budget Committee looks at all of this. It's
Right.
not like no town meeting group is aware or visiting it.
Well, right, but it never gets talked about in town meeting.
Where I get confused is, there is a spreadsheet of things that we're thinking of in the future, but they're not really on a capital plan. They're just sitting there with a spreadsheet. Do we adopt it to a capital plan? Because
I'm not sure what
we
distinction
never
you
really have a
make.
capital plan unless we call that spreadsheet, which is just got all stuff thrown in there, a plan.
It's not that ad hoc. I mean, in terms of long-term maintenance, there are a lot of things that get, we need a new fire engine every 10 years, we need a new ambulance every 7 years. There's big things, those are pretty big things that get put in because maintenance says you gotta replace them now. Usually the other big one that we see, which is in capital plan as well, is the DPW's annual replacement of vehicles, which is, and that's.
But it's never
that's-
locked into a plan, it just
Well, what do you mean?
suddenly shows up in a warrant.
Because it's, you're looking for more certainty than is really there.
Well,
Because then maybe
priorities
they get
change.
to that year and that truck has still got a couple of years left.
Yeah.
You want to replace it because it's on the plan?
So,
It's fluid.
the plan
Yeah.
does have to be flexible because
Yes.
our, the things that we are working on as priorities right now push other things aside.
Well, but,
Okay, so something that is, so the truck that is clearly worn out and rusted can get bumped because something else,
No, we might bump something else.
well, yeah.
The
But-
truck that was scheduled to be replaced in 5 years might get to 4 years and go, listen, I'm looking at holes in the floorboard.
Yeah.
We spent $5,000 just keeping the engine running, this piece is a junk, and it gets moved up.
So I'm,
But we should pop back up to the,
Yes.
I mean, the recreation department had to get a new vehicle because it couldn't be inspected again.
but this,
And it's
this
not gonna
article
be right.
doesn't say we should or shouldn't have a capital budget. All it says is that town meeting ought to hear a discussion
You want to
of it.
report.
That's all. But
okay,
it's just-
so under Article 1, you want a report from the Capital Budget Committee.
No.
No, I want a report from the town administrator.
So the town administrator should wrap this into his financial
Yeah,
report that he gives at
exactly.
the beginning in May in town meeting.
Yes.
Why don't
Yes.
you just
Okay.
ask him?
We'll just say
Uh,
that.
Well, I didn't know for sure who to ask to do it. I mean, I
Ask
really
him.
don't know.
If you're going to want the town administrator to do something, maybe you ask the town administrator?
Yeah, well, I could. I'm just a guy, just one of 126 people.
And he works for us.
Well,
He
you
works
talk
for
to-
us.
You talk to people on Ways and Means and say, you think this is a good idea? But anyway, I'm just.
Anyway, so I guess,
Well, it would be fine with me if that's what happened. Because all I'm saying is that I think that we should hear what's going on in the capital budget report, some kind of thing, so that if people have questions about it or something like that, because right now, there's no discussion of it.
That's fine.
So what would you be asking town meeting to vote on? What would they be voting on?
If this was placed in the bylaws, then the town administrator would each May meeting include in his presentation about the town budget, something about the capital budget plan.
Man, so
Go ahead.
this is my passion project. I have complained about this, the
Oh.
formality of our capital planning, as long as I've been involved, and I'm trying to do something about it within Ways and Means. It's not specifically our mandate to work on capital plans, but certainly it enters into the operational budget, and so it's something that we should formalize. And I do think that town meeting members are confused. There is a published capital plan, there's a published debt plan, and there's a published schedule of potential capital items we'll have to vote on in town meeting. Trying to reconcile all of those is possible, but it involves a very large spreadsheet that I think John Denizio knows well, but, you know, sometimes.
It's not a
they get-
three-dimensional spreadsheet.
They get disconnected, and I think we don't have good visibility, and we don't have a framework for talking about it, and we don't have as formalized a process, because there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen on the capital budget. Furthermore, the capital budget is kind of aspirational, and it changes from time to time. So I pulled up the full capital, the debt schedule, and it goes out 10 years. There are 26 items on it that are over $1 million. But they're all in different time frames. There's a lot to talk about, and it's hard to talk about it unless you talk about the whole thing. And you have to recognize that everything could potentially move depending on what happens in the budgeting from year to year. And so it is a really difficult topic, but we definitely need more visibility on it.
Does this do what you want?
I don't think, so it's in the right direction. I don't know that this is a right mechanism. And one thing I would say is that it already happens, because it's not verbal report, it's not PowerPoint, it's not video, it is a report. And if you look at the budget book, the 10-year capital plan is in the appendix. It's always there, and it's
There's like 10 pages
Fine.
that pull out this wide.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a bad report, and everyone in town meeting should read it. I don't know that they do. I think that I certainly think we should ask Paul to present it in the PowerPoint as a summary, and I think that some years the Ways and Means Chair talks more about the plan. Sometimes Paul Sagarino says more about the plan. Sometimes certain items are delegated to the department chairs. There's not a formal framework, but it's there.
But an essential piece, which I think it is working on, is a way to actually shrink it down to be a little bit more comprehensible
Yeah.
and present it in, because it really is more complicated than people can absorb in a reasonable amount of time, and then use in a meaningful way as they approve things. So it needs a better presentation.
So you're saying you can't really connect the pieces, but at least all the pieces are in this box?
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's the volume of information that's so difficult, rather than the fact that nobody's presenting the information. We need to coordinate it, and it's a project that I think we need a lot of people to get together and work on and decide how we're gonna make it comprehensible. I think just issuing the mandate, what that means is that somebody's gotta stand up and deliver some PowerPoint slides, but if we haven't done all that work that's gonna make it comprehensible, then it's gonna be kind of a
or we're
throwaway.
gonna spend 45 minutes at town meeting at the beginning of May to kind of outline all of that stuff. And I think what you're talking about is trying to figure out some other way that it can be put into more bite-sized chunks.
Well, I think we need a framework, so one thing I'm undertaking, as Vice Chair of Ways and Means, is to just document our process, so that there's a tidy document people can refer to, so they understand how the sausage is made. And capital budget plan is another sausage that's a little messier right now, that we could integrate into that to make it easier to digest. And we should definitely present in a comprehensible form, maybe not in the appendix, maybe right up front, what the plans look like, so that we have visibility every year. Knowing, because we need to keep these things on our mind, because the reason why the police station and the schools got pushed forward is because it's just hard to think about, and we didn't have visibility on it for people to stand up and say, that police station is really important to me. And so we're gonna talk about it next year if you don't get on it, and it became much more easy to just, maybe we'll think about it next year. And that happens for a few years, and then you've got a bunch of projects that come.
So you're looking at a report, it's kind of like we had problems years ago dealing with revolving accounts, so you're trying to just put everything in place like the revolving accounts so people could see them, know them, that they're there, and
Yeah.
So in terms of this warrant article,
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I agree, but I think it's in a fine form to present. I don't want to try to convince you to withdraw it, but that would be my inclination, probably.
Yeah.
Well, my response is that I like the article because it has provoked just the kind of discussion that I want to hear. This is more discussion of the capital budget than I have ever heard in Burlington. And let me tell you that people who are not, let me say that a majority of people in town meeting are not budget whizzes.
but there's only seven of us, we now need 12 to do anything with it.
Anyway,
And,
But you have to
people are
go
not
on.
budget whizzes, and they have no clue what's the relationship between this giant spreadsheet in the back and, you know, everything else going on, because
Right.
that was the reaction pretty much of the people at the General Bylaws Committee, was, we don't understand what's going on, and they wanted me to put in they're all for an amendment to this, saying that the presentation ought to be in January, so that town meeting knows what's going on before the budget season even begins. And I thought that that was kind of would be a hard burden, given that the planning season is, you know, would be preempting the budget season, but that's the level of.
actually, no. 'cause
When does
by
the
January,
financial
pretty
team
much
get
everything
together?
for May is set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it, the budget is pretty much set by January?
there's a lot of
A lot
budget
of
stuff
it.
that is done.
It hasn't all been reviewed by everybody, but
Uh-huh.
the guideline has been set, the free cash amount's been certified in November. You know, the broad framework is there, the big numbers are there.
So there could be a report in January?
Maybe not
We
this
should,
year. So let me
anyway, let's
say,
not try to nail this down.
I
It's
do
not-
like the
Well-
idea of having a discussion about it for awareness, and it kind of puts pressure to actually get this done. My goal is to try to have more of a framework for the capital budget process, so everyone has expectations for when you bring your department's wants and desires and integrate them into that plan. And one idea that has been advanced, and it's probably a good one, is to do that off cycle with the operational budget, so that we aren't trying to do lots of things all at once. But to try to get that together in
Now
January
is not necessary.
makes me.
But we have to do all the approvals in May.
But it does fit in some ways with your operational budget, because
Yeah.
when you're looking at, because that's when I do it, is that when I'm looking at, okay, so 10 years out, what am I gonna need? 5 years out, is what is the office gonna need? I mean, that, I do those capital budget things at that point in time when I'm also working on the operational budget. So, and then that's what I submit to the financial team, that then they put that into the big spreadsheet.
Yeah, and those are very tactical items that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And more big picture strategic items, we need a school in this year because we built the last one 60 years ago. Those you might want to think about and have a
But that's
discussion.
still, I guess that's what I'm thinking of, you know, like knowing what AI does. What are we going to need in the clerk's office 10 years from now, or 5 years from now with AI? So what are the things that are out there? And I'll put something out in the capital budget. Now, that may get bumped out because, you know, the items that I was thinking of don't exist, but, you know, I mean, those are, I think that's what most department heads are thinking of now.
I
And
think
guess
that's right. I think that different departments have slightly different ideas, and no one's codified exactly when you're
Okay,
supposed to
yeah.
bring your ideas.
To the table.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
But
Ed, you
usually
said you,
John bugs us for, you know, don't you have any capital items? What are you thinking about?
Okay.
you said,
Amy, do
okay,
both?
this
Thank
is
you,
an
this is very
off-site
helpful.
meeting, so who runs the meeting and who do they invite?
Oh, well, we don't know.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but
Okay.
there are, so we have different executive boards that have their own authority and bring projects, and we've got all the departments that are under town hall, and then,
And a
you
bunch
know,
that are not.
Yeah, and we see every once in a while, town meeting, people will get together and say, we really need this now, and it becomes an article that we have to debate, and it has never been considered in the context of all the other moving parts and expenses.
You mean like a athletic field?
So,
Or 3?
just to throw something out there, yeah.
Anyway.
Will
David,
this
do you
still
know what
work
the
with
vote was
where we
on
have
this
the
one?
town side and the school side almost separate and distinct?
Well,
They
I'd
didn't
like
vote
them-
on this.
What?
They didn't vote on it.
They didn't vote, okay.
I think this would be a forum for the village to talk and prioritize items that come from both sides.
But is that done, is that a good thing to do in the format of a general town meeting discussion?
No,
Oh, we're not gonna do all the prioritization of all the items
No.
over the next 10 years or 20 years.
I'm just saying in terms of this article.
I think the presentation of the results of that meeting of the minds and that good orderly effort would be very nice to present to town meeting once a year.
Yeah, I think this article is an opportunity for you to present your vision, but I don't see we've got something to vote on.
Well, yeah, my vision, I'm not.
Well,
ready
does
to
anyone else have a
present.
vision?
I'm hoping to get that framework to town meeting before maybe next year. So this, I had no knowledge of this before it came up, and I like how you're thinking. I'm not sure that just putting a mandate in books is the best way to do it.
Well, I didn't
But
want,
people share your
I didn't,
desire.
I didn't want to tell people how to put it together.
Mhm.
I just wanted to report to town meeting once it was done.
So-
That was it, and I didn't want to put stuff in it saying, you will do it this way, or you will do it that way, because that needs to be worked out by people who are doing it.
I think that,
If the end result is a report to town meeting, then that's the,
and so I would say that the letter of your law is already satisfied by the 10-year capital plan that's in the budget book that comes in May every year. So the mandate that I would issue is town meeting read that thing.
Open the packet before you sit
Yeah.
down.
That's right. Hey, at least I no longer hear the tape ripping open.
I watch.
I used to hear that all the time, and it used to drive me nuts.
Right.
Well, those people got it electronically. They didn't open the
Oh,
paper.
that's what
until
it is,
they-
they didn't open the email. Oh, okay. I need to put electronic tape sound.
Anyway, there's only one more item.
So, well,
Maybe I
and
didn't
so,
open this.
so I don't know if, whatever, okay. So we have no vote, we have 15. 16, I thought had been postponed or withdrawn.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And I haven't heard any more. Unfortunately, nobody was around today.
They agreed to at the selectmen's meeting, I think. Or was it the planning board?
Planning board, I thought.
They agreed to,
yes.
They're separate,
Yes.
though.
The problem, yeah,
Oh.
there's a general bylaw one and there's a zoning
Oh, yes.
bylaw.
Yes.
Neither one of them, both of them are in your warrant. I've been told, though, that they were being postponed by the proponents, so I'm confused with that. No votes have been taken on them or anything.
So it is,
It's done.
there's danger in advancing the zoning amendment, right? Because we can't bring it up for 2 years, it was defeated. I don't think it's.
17, it can't go forward without a planning board recommendation. Correct?
Yes.
Yes,
And there is no recommendation.
there is no recommendation.
So that's dead.
So that's already dead. I could see where they might want the debate on the general
Yeah.
bylaw to
And
see
so,
how people.
I
feel
don't
about
know, I don't know
I
anything.
wouldn't think you'd want to bring one up without the other. You want, just for expediency's sake,
Yeah.
one-
Amy, could you just send an email to the sponsor
That's
and
what I've
say,
got to do, and
and ask them.
unfortunately, Lynn was not in today, so since she's the major
You're on to-
Okay.
leader of the warrant, I just couldn't find out any
Boy,
information.
nice.
So I don't
You
That's
need
the
some
new-
more? Let me know.
Is that the new town
I
pen?
believe it's postponed,
Is that the new town pen?
No, it's mine.
so.
Oh,
So thank you very much for
all right.
coming. And
Actually,
then,
we get one or two
next
samples of
Wednesday,
each. We
we
get
will
one or
be
two samples
in
of
the
each.
annex, and